Morning.
It's been about a week since I last fired up the camera. First and foremost, it did rain last weekend. We got an average of about an inch of rainfall or 25 millimeters across our entire farm. That was a much needed rainfall. The corn and the soybeans are both very happy now. We've got a good amount of moisture in the subsoil, although we are going to continue to burn through it fast. There's dew on the corn this morning, and you really only have to go 3 inches down to get moisture. Pretty good sign. As expected, the corn is also growing exponentially. I'm not the tallest person in the world, and some of this corn is shooting leaves up that are taller than me. So with my boots on, that may be right under 6 foot tall. It's growing quick. Gonna need more rain. That 1 inch was almost a lifeline. A lot of places in the Corn Belt are desperately dry right now. I'll talk about that a little bit later though. To be completely fair, this is some of our best dirt. Obviously, it's gonna have the best corn as long as it gets rains adequate with the rest of our farms. Second update, we finished the previous bin site. We've now moved down here east of Etna to our last one. These 3 bins were all cored this winter. Roughly guessing here, we probably got 20,000 bushels of corn, 8,000 or 9,000 bushels of corn, and another 20. So let's just call it 50,000 bushels of corn to haul, and we're done. I've been mainly focused on sprayer projects and odds and ends stuff, especially with my dad out of commission with his shoulder repair recovery. Because of that, I only fire up my truck and grain trailer when we're sweeping out the bins. Didn't show the 2 corn bins getting swept out at the last bin site because I still have some of you fooled that I don't actually work at all, and I might as well keep that going. Speaking of the devil, there's the workhorse himself, Jeff. Whether you want to believe it or not, I have been fairly busy over the last week, traveling to Florida, Arizona, even went down to Mexico for a little bit. I kid. Got the sprayer cleaned out, tanker cleaned out. Now I need to do some pretty pertinent maintenance or repairs on the sprayer boom. I've probably highlighted this a week or 2 ago. This bracket right here is what holds on the entire winglet or breakaway section. The top half is broken on this. It actually was already cracked when I got the sprayer, and then I'm sure I hit something hard enough to break it off the rest of the way. Bottom one appears to be in good shape, though if the bottom half breaks, the entire winglet comes off, ripping off your hoses, your electronics, and creating quite the headache. So we're gonna work on that today. I want to take a quick moment to thank the sponsor of today's video, Discount Lots. Discount Lots is a place for individuals located within the United States to locate their dream property. Prospective buyers in the United States head over to discountlots.com. I recommend any one of you out there goes over to their website and checks out their expansive list of available properties. If you see a property that's of particular interest to you, you add it to your cart, you use code DLTrippy10 to get 10% off on your purchase, and you finalize the order. It's really that simple. Because the team at Discount Lots handles every step in the buying process, it eliminates a lot of unnecessary steps and fees. On top of that, they're able to not do credit checks on individuals, meaning it's that much quicker and streamlined. One of the best parts about all of this is that with their easy payment plan, you can get started on purchasing your dream property for as little as $200 per month. Quick, easy, and affordable. Go check out their expansive list of properties on discountlots.com, and make sure if you do find something you want to purchase, you use code DLTrippy10. Simple, easy, effective. Discountlots.com. Check them out. Now back to our regularly scheduled programming. Here's the game plan. Originally, I thought just the inside here was cracked. It's actually cracked on the other side where it's flat against the end of this boom section. I was just going to have that part welded without even taking it off. Now it seems like it's almost impossible to do so without entirely pulling the boom apart. I'm going to take this winglet off. We're gonna pull this whole piece off and take it to the welding shop and have it professionally welded. I know some of you are probably wondering, why don't you just buy a new piece if you're gonna have it apart? Well, a new piece is like $800 or $900. This Hagie has the hybrid aluminum boom, so it's mostly aluminum. I think there is some steel reinforcements here or there. That part is steel, so it can be welded without too much trouble. And this winglet is almost entirely aluminum except for parts of the wet boom, the plastic parts. It's going to be fairly light. I have it close to the ground in case I do need to set it down, because I also don't want to unhook the hoses or the electronics if I don't have to. First step is going to be loosening the tension on the breakaway right there, this chain. When I broke this tensioner strap, it actually did not break that bracket. It must have been something else I hit. I loosened the tensioner all the way off and then just unhooked the chains so they're not in the way. And I'm going to show you guys exactly how this bracket works. It's basically like an accordion. If you hit something going forward, which is that direction, the boom is capable of swinging backwards. That is why the tensioner's there, is because once you clear the object, you want your boom to go back in place. This little bit, 10 foot of room for error, allows you to sideswipe some things without causing damage to your sprayer or to the object, like a power pole. Same thing can happen in reverse, although it's much less likely that you hit something in reverse. The boom will actually go forward as well. And sometimes if you hit something hard enough or whip the sprayer around, the boom will actually go back and forth a little bit because the forces are trying to equalize each other. That's why it accordions here in the middle. It can go both directions. The issue is that if you go one direction too far or too hard or whip it around too quick, you cause a lot of strain on the boom itself. Unfortunately, this is actually in worse shape than I thought. It's bent pretty severely on top, broken on the outside and the inside, which I knew about that. Very clearly heavily rusted, so those cracks were already there probably before I got this sprayer. I definitely had something to do with making it worse. I'm not going to deny that, but I'm debating on whether or not welding it is even a good option. Maybe I should just break out the checkbook and buy the new piece. I also see that there may be a crack forming on this piece as well. At least the paint is chipped there, which I would think is indicative of a possible fault occurring. That one I may just keep an eye on. This one though, against my better financial judgment, I'm almost thinking about going and getting a new part. If you cannot tell, I'm not a qualified Hagee mechanic. I'm not even really good at turning wrenches at all. But I know if you loosen things to the left, eventually they do come out, most of the time. Last one I'm about to do is the only one holding this boom up right now. Oh, I was right. Probably should have hit some of those out before I did this. I'm gonna hammer these out, and since they were somewhat rusty, I'm just gonna get new bolts when I go get the piece. See if we can unhook these cables and not yank them out. 2 to go. The first one was the height sensor. It had a connection just right here, so it was not bad. Got our plumbing to take out. I can either undo this right here, which is probably gonna be the easiest. Don't worry, that's just clean water. I wouldn't drink out of it personally, but it's clean. Where'd you go? I missed you so. Look at that, I'm almost a mechanic. Oh, you little rascal. Are you serious? Don't make me get the hammer out. Oh, good. There you have it. That's how you take off the winglet. Obviously the other approach would be just to pull the pins, although I think those would be harder to pull than they look. I will have to pull the pins. I've pretty much decided at this point that I'm replacing that piece. I don't want to spend the money, but at the same time, it's really hard to put a price on peace of mind. I guess that's kind of disingenuous to say, considering I would have kept running it the way it was till the end of the season. My dad was the one who was concerned about it, which is funny because it's not even his sprayer, but he's a little more particular than I am. Oh man. The Hagee guy said this only weighs like 30 pounds. I've lifted enough weights to know that's more than 30. That's got to be closer to 100. Let me know in the comments, do you think if I would have kept running, as long as I didn't just absolutely mangle the end of the boom on something, would that have snapped off? I would have been picking this whole winglet up out in the field and reconnecting everything that ripped off. Ran over to Dad's house to get a pair of these things. I honestly do not know what these are called. Someone let me know in the comments. Gotta pull this pin off. Wow, that was easy. I'm sure that's the easiest step of pulling this thing out. I tried manual force to pop this out with no luck. The boss showed up, he suggested we go over here to the air compressor and put an air chisel on it, see if we can chisel it out. If not, we may be recruiting the help of the fire wrench.
Does this go in farther?
Yeah, it does.
Well, I put it in as far as you can get it. Just try it that way.
There's no other way to put it than we've been violently going at this pin with some heat with the air chisel, which the air chisel did pretty much nothing. The hammer on and off in different orders for the last 30 or 45 minutes. A few working words have been thrown in there. There'd be a lot of bleeping if I had that footage. So we're taking a little break right now. We're gonna try grinding the end off because we've hammered it so hard that the end is starting to flatten out. And we think that may be kind of bottlenecking us. Grind that off. And then maybe try driving it out, heating it up some more. I don't know. Find a dumpster somewhere to throw it in. One of the two, whatever we figure out.
Move?
I don't think it moved one bit. We're taking a little lunch break from the sprayer boom project. Maybe if that pin had some time to reminisce on how much of a troublemaker it's being, it would act a little better when we come back to hammer it next time. We've known that Jeff Semi's had a small coolant leak for the last couple of weeks. He's been keeping an eye on it every morning and then just adding a little bit more water. That's kind of tough. It's just a leaky hose. I've got the fix. So I may try to do that while he's gone at lunch. It's really nothing too complicated. This bracket that holds this coolant hose, it runs from the reservoir down to the water pump, I believe. Honestly, I don't know. Or maybe that's the return line, who knows. Either way, it's been leaking. He's been putting just water in it, so whatever falls out, it's not like we're losing much money on, just no antifreeze. The only reason you gotta run antifreeze as coolant is because if you run when it's below freezing, if this stuff freezes, you can ruin your engine, obviously. I'm gonna see if I can pop this off real quick and fix it before he gets back from lunch. I don't know how recently this has been on, but we'll bleed this pressure off a little bit. Huh, I guess there was no pressure on it. Sometimes it's got some pressure in there. This coolant could be very hot, so we're gonna try to keep our hands out of any bad positions. These look fairly small. I got a small set of wrenches. I'll go get. Got a 9. Nope. 10. Nope. Maybe 11 or 12. Well, that's a 3/8. Why is there 3/8 with my metrics? All right, you guys remember how this went. Nut, lock washer, flat washer. Don't ask, but this is the closest thing to a decent pair of pliers I have in my truck. There actually is pressure. It's pushing out from the black hose. It's not even coming out of the reservoir. And it's steaming. So we're gonna let it do its thing right here. Okay, that didn't feel secure. That end's not going anywhere. Everything's tied back up. Let's fire it up and see if she runs. It was a joke, everyone, relax. I think I'm gonna need more than one of these based on how much spilled out when I opened everything up. Wow, that held way more coolant or water than I was expecting. I probably got 10 to 12 gallons in there. I did drain the whole system, so that does make sense. Fire it up, make sure there's no leaks. I didn't see any leaks, so I'm gonna consider this project complete on my end. I'm gonna leave the hood up and tell Jeff when he gets back from whatever he's doing right now to check the level in the coolant reservoir, because I don't know if it sinks down a little bit when you fire everything up and more of that coolant gets sucked into the system. It's just easier for me to instruct him to do it whenever he shows back up, as opposed to me sitting here and waiting for it to cool off again. Projects like that one that go exactly as planned really make you dislike the ones that, like we're working on right now, that are not going well at all, which is where I'm headed to. Back to pound the pen. The good news is that it's humid outside. The bad news is that it's humid outside. Everything that normally works on something like this is not working. The Hagee mechanic warned me that it could be an issue getting these pins out. He wasn't wrong. I'm gonna sit here and mess with this a little bit longer. Eventually I'll give up, or it'll give up. Depends on who gives up first.
Did you take this one out?
It just fell right out.
Will this one come out?
I guess we can try.
How come you didn't do that in the first place?
What kind of crap is that?
I don't know.
Spend 3 hours hammering on this thing, and the other one just comes right out. We spend all that time. Yeah. That one accidentally comes out. Wow. Oh, that needs to go off for it. I'm not sure I'm comfortable putting it back on after what we've done.
Well, as strong as it is, I don't know why you'd be worried about it.
But we can't even get the other pin out unless we punch it out.
You need back?
I do, after the work I've done so far. Give you a quick update on what just transpired. Dad and I were able to hammer the piece I cut in half off after heating it up again. And then we heated up the other part of it, went to town on it, and I hammered it so hard that we broke the snap ring off the other side, and it just fell out on the other side. Yesterday afternoon, Dad and I ran to the John Deere dealership to order some parts for the Hagee boom, and I just didn't make it back out to the farm. We did a few other things. Wanted to give you a quick update. I did order the one side of that bracket. I was gonna order this piece too because we heated it up and hammered on it, and as a matter of fact, the John Deere dealership had to take it back to their press and really work on it for a while. They said it was a bugger. It is, I guess, all aluminum, and something to do with a steel pin and aluminum makes them seize up even worse than steel on steel. I don't know. That's way above my intellect. But the point being that everything is separated now. We ordered a new pin, a new bracket. I was going to order a new one of these too, but it was $750 for this piece right here. I don't know if just because it's aluminum it's so expensive. The bracket there that I have to replace, or that I'm going to replace, it is $950. The pins are $50 a piece, which $50 for a pin doesn't sound that bad when you're buying a $950 bracket. Instead of replacing this and spending way more money, I just bought a can of Hagee yellow spray paint. So when we put it back together, we'll put some paint on it. I've really got no leg to stand on with this argument, but $950 for that bracket seems a little bit like highway robbery. I guess it's a beggars can't be choosers type market because you can't get that anywhere else. Still, a little bit ridiculous if you ask me. I heard a commotion. There is a helicopter out behind our farm with presumably a tree trimmer going along these high voltage transmission lines. They come around once a year or once every couple of years. You want to talk about madmen? That's a crazy job. He must get paid by the hour because he's aimlessly circling right now. Do you enjoy chainsawing and flying helicopters? Boy, oh boy, do we have the job for you. Running a chainsaw attached by a string to a helicopter 50 yards off the ground. It's about as crazy as it sounds, but they do it every couple years, like I said. It is interesting to watch. I don't know, even if they touch the electrical wire, the transmission line, I don't think technically they'd be grounded because they're literally in the air. So they'd probably be fine as long as they didn't touch multiple wires at once. Okay, I did a few hours of manual labor yesterday, so time to head back to Florida for another couple weeks. Oh, you know, I'm just kidding. I'm not taking the old 9200 International down the interstate. That'd be a long drive, especially with how poorly that thing steers. Occupationally speaking right now, I have about 4 options. First option is do nothing. Second option is do nothing but drive around while I do it. Third option is mow. Fourth option is haul grain. The fourth option seems to be the most sound thing for us. Get all of our grain out of the bins right now, especially because the markets are taking a pretty healthy rally right now with all of the talks of drought in the Corn Belt and across the United States as a whole. I'll talk about that a little bit more at the tail end of the video. I've already talked about rain a little bit. For now though, I'm getting behind the wheel. We got another grain bin to clean out. This is a 36-foot bin. We're about a half ring above the door. The sides are just now barely cracked, the side sumps that is. So we'll probably get 2 more loads before it quits. I could be wrong on that. The side sumps are nice because it brings all that grain down to the floor below the door. There's no excessive scooping required. The only downside to this bin is it's our only big 36-foot bin that doesn't have an integrated power sweep. So we had to drag a big 18-foot sweep in there. They're so heavy that we take the motor off and put them together in the bin. I'm loaded. There's probably enough to at least load half of Jeff. He should be back any minute. We've been hauling to TGM in Neoga, which is probably a 20-minute round trip. The fun part about running all of these systems, especially when they're not fully integrated into the bins, is all of the wire management we have to do. We've got a twist lock plug running the out auger motor. We've got a pigtail going from a range plug to a twist lock. It will run the motor in the bin. And then we've got this bigger 220 range plug running to the south bin over there. It's running the conveyor. Last but not least, we got this small 110 going to this little fan we put on the back to pull some of that dust out. We're good to go. We've tested everything and should be in the bin soon. Now's the point where if you're looking to volunteer to do some manual labor, you could come show up. Easy, come back another 5 foot. 5 foot. Now he shows up. I may have misestimated again. Jeff might get a full load on this one. It'll definitely quit on the next one though. We got everything moved over to the middle bin. North bin is empty. 2 left to go on the season. My body wishes that we had no more grain bins empty. I would say the farm's bank account would never run out of need for more full grain bins. You never have too much corn, especially with the markets doing what they've been doing this week. Just dropped off the last load of the day. We're empty. Time to head home. I've been so distracted sweeping out that bin all day that I've almost entirely forgot I have a disassembled Hagee sitting here waiting on me. Parts aren't going to be in though, so that's the next week project. Before I take off for the weekend, I want to talk about the very obvious elephant in the room for a second year in a row, the lack of moisture or just the drought in general. I know a lot of people are already throwing in the towel on this growing season. They're saying it's shot. There's no way we produce good crops. I'll say that a couple counties to the north of us last year, they were dry June, maybe caught a few rains, dry July. Dry, dry, dry basically was the synopsis of their growing season. Yet somehow, come October, all of these farmers were posting pictures of their 230 bushel yielding corn, acting as if they never complained about how dry it was. I'm not going to say that that applies everywhere. The point I'm trying to make though is that corn does not need a ton of rainfall so long as it is not 100 degrees outside. As long as we stay in these 75 to 85 degree highs, the corn can scavenge a lot of moisture for the ground. That's not to say that we can't use rain, but that's what I've seen historically. And it really has a pretty long stretch of time it can go, hoping that Mother Nature fills the gap for us. Last year we didn't get much rains in June. In July we got a couple big rains. Soybeans are a little different in the fact that they cannot root as deeply. At the same time, they don't use as much moisture. The thing with soybeans all comes down to August rains. You can have a very droughty growing season, and as long as you get some pretty timely rains in August, you can still produce a crop, even if the soybeans look very poor. Corn can get its hands on more moisture in the ground, though it's much more particular. July is kind of do or die for corn. If it stays dry for that long, the plants try to go through their reproductive processes without moisture, it could get pretty nasty pretty quickly. I'll leave you with this because I'm sure I'll talk about it a little bit more. We've got some good looking corn here, but I would equate it to driving at the Grand Canyon. You're good until you aren't. Your corn can look tremendous until the heat starts to kick up and it really starts to need that moisture. That top end yield will really start to nosedive off of that cliff quickly if you do not turn around with a rain. From what I've gathered, pretty much south central to southern Illinois is all in great shape. There is a lot of grain produced in that area. I just don't know that it really offsets the tremendous amount of grain produced in north central northern Illinois, eastern Iowa, up into Minnesota, Wisconsin, parts of Michigan. There's just a lot of acres there that need fed, and it's not all irrigated. We rely on Mother Nature to provide us with rainfall because it's just not cost effective for us here to put irrigation in because our ground is so naturally plentiful on average with moisture that you can't buy the ground and afford to put in irrigation. You can't do both. The ground costs so much because irrigation is almost priced in. You guys know I'll keep you updated throughout the growing season. For our farm currently on June 15th, 16th, I have no idea what day it is, I am not going to be concerned about a lack of rainfall for at least another 2 to 3 weeks. If we continue to miss these storms that they're forecasting for 2 to 3 more weeks, then I may be a little bit more concerned. The grain market is already pricing in a potential for yield reduction because we've seen corn move about 80 to 90 cents off of its planting season lows, which equates to 10 or 15%, maybe 20%, depending on when you look at the market. That's quite a bit. 10 or 15% on an APH price basis is $150 an acre, $200 an acre if you produce your crop. Now obviously it's up higher because people are looking at not producing enough, but that's a very complicated discussion. Just know that the market thinks that we have some dry weather. If we start getting rains quickly, a lot of people's crops will probably be fine, and the market will also start to reflect that. It'll go off that same cliff in a completely disproportionate manner to the yields. Alrighty everyone, that's gonna be it for me. Don't worry about our farm. I'm a perpetual optimist. Until I don't think it's the case, I'm still penciling in record yields, because why not? I sure hope that those of you who are desperately in need of a rain get a rain, or on the backside, I hope no one gets a rain, so everyone wins because the drought destroys everyone, crops and prices go up. Whatever, disregard that. I'll catch you all in the next episode. Until then, make sure you like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to see more, and comment down below if you have any questions. You know I'd love to talk about farming. Have a great day, everyone. Peace!